Welcome back, everybody, to Season 2 of A Little Market Insight. I am your host and local real estate agent, Justin Little, and I am super excited for the episode we have today. Now I am joined by Santiago from Bayfront Law, where we are going to talk all about title insurance. So, Santiago, thank you so much for joining us, because this is a pretty hot topic. Like I know I was mentioning just before we went on air here that, I did a first-time homebuyer webinar, and there was a lot of questions about this. Sure. And I think you're very qualified to answer these questions. So let's start with the basics. What exactly is title insurance?
Sure. First off, thanks, Justin. Really nice to be here. Title insurance is often overlooked. So you're right. You're going to get a lot of questions because when people are looking at closing costs that are attached to any sort of transaction, this is one that isn't often mentioned. What it is an insurance policy, obviously, but it's an insurance policy that's a little bit different. First off, you only pay once. So there's one premium, and it runs for the length of time that you own the property. You are an heir. You purchase it when you're closing a transaction, when you're purchasing or even when you're refinancing and you have a mortgage. And it speaks to a few risks. Number one, title issues. So if you get in, there's an issue that has like a lien or an encumbrance, a charge that shouldn't be on there, then that's the kind of claim that goes to title insurance. Another sort of risks, there are three headings, is off-title issues. So this one's interesting because if you purchase a property and you find out that the previous owner built a deck or rebuilt the foundation 30 years ago, there's no permit. A municipality at any point can go in and say, you've got to rebuild that deck, you've got to change that foundation, do the necessary repairs. Title insurance in that case will cover that claim. You can make a claim to them. They will cover the legal fees. And so that provides that level of insulation against risk of things that happened sort of retroactively before you purchased the property and became an owner. Then that third heading, and this one is one that we hear about more and more every day. So think about mortgage fraud. These are the transactional issues that the title insurance speaks to. Someone puts a fraudulent mortgage on title to the property. Then that is the kind of title defect that title insurance will speak to. This might happen if, say, an elderly homeowner has no mortgage on title to the property. Then someone might put on a mortgage on there, and title insurance will then cover all the legal fees to rectify that situation. Or in certain sort of exceptional cases, you hear about the actual title to the property being transferred to someone else from, under the feet of someone. And so that is that third sort of heading. And so that's kind of the idea behind title insurance, the kind of risks that it underwrites. And then the other kind of sort of considerations that we might have are sort of the costs. It's actually quite a modest expense. So on a, say, $800,000 purchase, title insurance will probably be somewhere around $700 to $800. So you purchase it once, runs for the length of time that you own the property, and then it covers all of these risks in case you need it. Okay, so there's no monthly premium to it, it's just the one-time fee. Exactly. Right, and then so you talked about a couple things, so I got a few questions. One, just to simplify it for people out there, can you, because you said it protects against liens or encumbrances on the property. Sure. I know we run that jargon all day, but can you just simplify what a lien or encumbrance is? Yeah, so these are the kinds of things that go on title to a property. So we've got this big land registry, it's a list of all the properties and all of the things that are attached to it. A mortgage is an encumbrance, it's a charge, and so it goes on title. And so that's a classic sort of title defect that might appear, and title insurance says they will come in and clean that up for you if that's the case. Okay, and could that be even from retroactive, like somebody not paying property taxes, could be a lien put on, that type of thing? But usually we find that in the title search, right? Absolutely, but you're absolutely right. That is something that title insurance can speak to. The other thing that might come up from time to time is utilities that haven't been paid. And again, lawyers are tasked with kind of looking after that, making sure that that's the case. But in those exceptional cases where that's not taken care of and a utility says this amount is owed for a period of time that you weren't in the property, title insurance speaks to that too. Okay, and then I know
You mentioned about somebody putting a mortgage on somebody else's house. Like,
Right.
how can people protect from that? Like, can you get in title insurance even if you're already living in the house?
That's
Like,
a really good. That's a really good question. Absolutely. So it doesn't have to be just on the purchase or on the refinancing of a property, but anybody who has a property can reach out to a lawyer and say, "I would like to, number one, determine whether I have title insurance, or to purchase a title insurance policy after the fact." And that's something that, with the type of fraud that's going on, as I mentioned. Typically, when you see mortgage frauds, it's on properties that have no mortgages on them already.
Okay.
So this will be classic scenario, kind of a senior who's owned the property for 30, 40 years. It's mortgage free. That's the kind of environment where putting a mortgage on fraudulently, that's probably the most effective target for that sort of thing. And so title insurance will cover all of the legal fees for remedying that situation.
Wow, that's good to know. And even the addition, like you mentioned about the decks and stuff, I guess that would cover additions, or even if somebody opened a wall without a permit and the city wanted to retroactively engage this, title insurance would cover,
and you can
said,
imagine
the legal fees, the claim, and everything. Eh?
Yeah, that can be a pretty significant hit, especially let's say you're a first-time homeowner and fundamentally cost conscious, and you get in and you find out something. A deck is probably the least of it, but maybe a foundation issue that needs to be rectified. That could be a pretty significant fee.
Yeah, that's good to know, right? And I think for $700 to make sure that you're protected against all of this stuff is a fee that's worthwhile, right? Because let's talk about closing costs. Like, I know that's always people always ask, what are the closing costs? Bit of a mystery. Like, what would you say for people to prepare for? Like, what do you usually see when you're looking at the statement of adjustments on these closings?
Absolutely. So you kind of highlighted it. The reason why this is an important conversation is because it falls under kind of the broader subject of what are the closing costs. And title insurance, in my experience, is the one that is sort of least well known in terms of closing costs. Generally, I'm sure you're talking to your clients, you're saying, we've got land transfer tax, we've got title insurance, legal fees, these are kind of the main headings. And title insurance in virtually every case is the one that's least, expected.
Mention. I think people forget about it, or people don't talk about it too much. Like, it's.
I think you're right, and I think it's because even if you don't have to be a first-time homeowner to kind of overlook that, because even if you bought your property 10 years ago, you probably don't remember that you paid that premium along with the closing costs. And so, it's easy to forget.
Because you get the statement of adjustments. Like, I've seen so many of them, right, with my properties, and you're looking at it, and it's, breaking it down. You would forget the fees in 10 years about it, right? And title insurance, too, I think is different, to point out that it's different than mortgage insurance. Because I think sometimes people get the two mixed up. Like, oh, I've got mortgage insurance, but it's like, no, this isn't
not only mortgage insurance, but property insurance. So contents, fire insurance, that's a separate type of insurance that, once again, we need to account for when we have closing costs.
Appreciate you coming on today. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Awesome. And thank all of you at home for joining us again this week. We're looking forward to an exciting season 2. Until then, I'm Justin Little, and I'll talk to you again.